Blackhawks fall to the Red Wings 3-1 in their fourth preseason game of the season. This game featured a lot more of the NHL lineup, though I'm not sure that was reflected during the game. I felt like for especially the first two periods, they looked pretty flat-footed. They were playing pretty slow in Detroit. I felt like was controlling play, especially at 5-on-5. The first period was really bad. The only highlight really of that period was that Connor Bedard was getting a little physical. We saw him throw a pretty big hit on his first shift of the game, and then a little later on, in either the end of the first or early second period, he got into a scrum. And that's not just a one-game thing. I mentioned that a few videos ago. I thought that Connor Bedard has been playing physical, especially early on in games, a lot more than we've seen in previous seasons, and that's just a short 3-game sample size that he's played in so far. But he looks like he's actively trying to be more involved physically and make his presence felt a little more in other areas of the game, not just offensively. But like I said, outside of that, there really weren't many highlights in the first period and really into the second period as well, but especially that first period was just super slow. No one was moving well. I felt like the Dickinson line especially looked bad. I didn't feel like Jason Dickinson had a great game today, and no one really on his line, which was Oliver Moore and Eli Mikheyev, played great either. That's not an ideal start for what Jeff Blashill is referring to as the shutdown line for the regular season, because they, in their two games that we've seen them play together, haven't really been shutting much down. Now, again, this is just preseason. This is, I think, a 2-game sample size that we've seen this line with Dickinson and Mikheyev in, but just the 2-game sample size hasn't been great. It's worth noting they are veteran players. Obviously, they're guaranteed roster spots, so it's not like maybe they're not going as hard as they will during the regular season on opening night, but still, it's not great that they've been scored on a few times and just haven't really looked great, even though they're supposed to be the shutdown line for the Blackhawks. Definitely is probably an overreaction to be saying that this early on in the fourth preseason game of the season. So take it with a grain of salt. That's just what I've been seeing so far and what I saw during this game, especially. Continuing on with the negativity, I did not feel like a lot of the defensemen played well. I felt like the Kaiser-Levshunov play or pair was really good. They were playing really well together. Kaiser is just moving so good throughout this whole camp and preseason. He looks really good to start, and I felt like Levshunov had a pretty good game today. He was making noticeable plays offensively, and I felt like he was very solid defensively as well. So I think that pair played really well together. I'm excited to see them in the NHL opening night lineup, and I'm excited to see them play throughout the season because they play really well with each other, and both are very good players. I'm excited to see that. But really, the other guys, which were Rinzel and Grzelcyk on the top pair, and then Del Mastro Murphy on the bottom pair, did not have great nights. Rinzel, I'm not too concerned with because you've got to remember this is a young defenseman. There's going to be growing pains, and there sure were, especially in this game. However, he did show some flashes offensively, just had a few turnovers, had a few sloppy plays defensively. Not going to read too much into that. I will say, though, Grzelcyk really was not noticeable today at all, and for an undersized offensive defenseman, you kind of want to see him doing something and impacting the game, which I didn't felt like he did at all today, nor did he do in his previous preseason game. Blackhawks' sixth defenseman spot still feels kind of up in the air because Ethan Del Mastro's been given every opportunity to claim that spot, but yet again tonight, he struggled. He did not look good. He was turning pucks over. He looked really sloppy defensively. He was out of position on the second Detroit goal, and that's not just kind of a one-time thing. We've seen that in previous games this preseason where Del Mastro's kind of a little bit zoned out, not in position, turning pucks over, playing sloppy defensively. He hasn't really done anything offensively. It's been a tough preseason and tough camp for Del Mastro, and this is a really important showing for him if he wants to make the team. Again, the Blackhawks have been giving him every opportunity to claim a spot, but he really hasn't done so up to this point. Now, I do expect Alex Vlasic, who's day-to-day with a skate cut, I think, in his lower leg, but it sounds like he should be ready for opening night, and I do expect him to be in the opening night lineup, which would mean the top four is solidified, and then Connor Murphy's your fifth guy. But with Kevin Korchinski being sent down to the AHL, it feels like it's three guys competing for that third pair spot on the left-hand side, and that is Ethan Del Mastro, who had the leg up heading into camp, but with how much he struggled, and he struggled again tonight, as I said, I'm not sure that spot's going to be his. Matt Grzelcyk really hasn't done anything to claim that spot. I haven't noticed him at all, nor have I thought he's played especially well. However, I think he could earn a contract and maybe be an 8th defenseman since Louis Crevier is kind of solidified into that 7th D-man role, maybe just as a veteran presence to provide a little extra depth, but I can't really see him claiming a full-time 6th defenseman spot because he hasn't played that great either. So honestly, I feel like it's Nolan Allen's spot to claim, and if I was in charge, I'd probably have him in that spot as of right now for the opening night roster. However, that's just me talking. I'm really not sure what we see next preseason game will probably give us a better idea into who is looking to claim that spot. Again, it's a little fishy because Alex Vlasic's going to be out for the remainder of the preseason, so someone has to fill that spot as well. But if Nolan Allen doesn't get in a game or doesn't get in the next game, it seems like he's pretty much a lock to be sent back down to Rockford, and it's going to be probably Ethan Del Mastro in the opening night lineup. But I think I'm getting a little bit off topic from this game recap. I did just want to mention it still feels like the spot is up for grabs since no one's really come out and looked to claim that spot yet. A few more general takeaways. The power play today went 0 for 6. They did draw 6 power play attempts, which is a positive in itself. Just being able to draw those power plays and those penalties means that they're playing better 5-on-5 and are being a little just better overall, creating more chances, making teams penalize them. So it was a positive to see them get those 6 attempts, and the first few that they got in the first period were really ugly, but in the second and third, I actually thought they generated a handful of chances on each power play. I thought they moved the puck pretty well. They were getting pucks to the net at a decent rate. I think it was a pretty good power play showing, even though they weren't able to capitalize. I do think the area that was a little concerning to see, though, on the power play was how many shorthanded opportunities they allowed. I counted 4 in this game, like high-quality chances that Detroit was able to generate shorthanded, and that's something Jeff Blashill's talked about, where it's not just purely the power play percentage and the penalty kill percentage. It's also how many chances can you create shorthanded if you're on the penalty kill, and how many chances are you allowing when you're on the man advantage. And tonight I felt like the Blackhawks were very sloppy with the man advantage. They were allowing lots of shorthanded chances to Detroit, and that's something that needs to get cleaned up, because even if you're not scoring and you're just generating chances on the power play, if you're giving up shorthanded chances against, that's a major problem. So again, early on in the preseason, they're definitely still figuring it out when it comes to the power play. I'm not going to read too much into it, but it is worth noting that was an issue tonight. Got into the third period, though. The Blackhawks were down 3-0, but I felt like this was their best period of the game. Colton Dach scored the lone goal for the Blackhawks, and he had himself a great game tonight. He was very impactful this time with his skill game, which I've mentioned in past videos. I've talked about how he's been physical. He had 6 hits in each of his last 2 preseason games, and I was talking about how he was very impactful physically in those games. But we just haven't quite seen the potential skill that's there. And tonight we saw the skill that Colton Dach can bring along with his physicality. He scored that goal, had the defender on ice skates, even though that's more of a basketball term since he was literally on ice skates. But he did get that defender just looking silly, went around him, and had a really nice shot for a goal. He also created a few chances. One specifically, I remember he made a deke around a defender, then set up Ryan Green on a cross-crease pass back door. Couldn't quite capitalize on that, but Colton Dach was creating chances there, and we know with what physicality he brings that he is going to be a very impactful bottom 6 player for the Blackhawks this year, and I have no doubts he will be making the team for the opening night. He had 4 shots and 5 hits in this game in just 13 minutes of ice time. So him playing on a line with Nick Foligno, who was given 8 hits along with an assist tonight, that's going to be a really fun 4th line to watch this season, as it seems like they will be playing with Sam Lafferty to start. Another player I wanted to bring up was Andrei Burakovsky, who I thought was noticeable this game. His speed and just ability to get the puck towards the net. He was credited with 3 shots in this game, but I felt like there were times where the Blackhawks just needed to get the puck towards the net, and he did that. He also used his speed very well. I'm just not sure yet how he actually meshes with Connor Bedard specifically, but I felt like taking a step back and looking at it a little more overall, I felt like Burakovsky's just speed and ability to get the puck to the net, his skill looked good, and he does look like a player. I just don't know exactly where he's going to settle into the lineup. As we see him more and more, we'll be able to tell that. But I did want to shout him out because I felt like he had a good game today, and some Blackhawks fans have been very quick to rule him out and count him out and be like, yeah, there's no, why is he playing with Connor Bedard? It's way too early to say it, to tell that, and I said that in my previous video, and I think tonight just only reinforced that point that we need to see kind of a little more of Burakovsky and how he meshes with players specifically, and I think we're seeing some of the flashes of what he can do. It's way too quick to bash on him because he can be a very good player in this top six. I think that's pretty much everything I want to cover in this video. Blackhawks had a bad first two periods, but a good third period. They outshot the Red Wings overall 28-19. But only were able to put one goal on the board. Still kind of waiting for a full game effort where they play a good all three periods. I don't know really if we've seen that yet. However, the line combinations have been different each night, though tonight was probably the closest we've seen to what the NHL roster will be on opening night. Still expecting some minor tweaks to the lineup, but we'll see those in the next game, which comes on Saturday. Or actually, Friday they play versus the Wild, so that will be the next game recap video. I do actually have a little different video coming out over the next few days in between the gap between now and the next postseason game or preseason game, so stay tuned for that. But that's going to do it for this one.